Hello everyone, this is Nick, and I present you the new Grid 1.5, which has a lot of new features like 3D grid and circular grid. Well, first things first, and let's start with rectangle grid. Here I have a picture by Timothy J. Reynolds and a shape that takes the color from the line pixel. And I want to duplicate it like 40 times. Let's make it 40, and select all the layers I want to put into the grid. So this is all my layers, and here it is, the rectangle mode, and I may set the number of columns or the number of rows I want to have, and of course I can set the spacing. Well, let's say we need 8 columns, and set spacing to something like 30 by 30. Okay, 8 columns, 30 by 30. So here it is, some kind of scale effect, and I can move it around, see the colors change. And one new neat feature is grid overlay. When I hit this button, the script creates a layer with a grid effect on it, in order to give you a more general feeling of what your grid looks like. So it follows you along, it follows you when you change spacing, everything like that. And it also follows you in expressions mode when you hit create button. The script creates null object with some sliders to control your grid, everything. Like in the script user interface, it's spacing, number of rows, columns, respectively. You may control the color of grid overlay as well from here. And now you can also rotate the grid with null object, and you can parent null object to another nulls for better control of your grid. And if you don't need all this, you just hit bake button. When you do this, the script removes all expressions and null object. Well, the next feature is duplicator mode. Let's remove everything and stay with one shape. Here it is. And the duplicator mode only available for 2D mode. You just hit this icon and the duplicator mode is on. When you have only one layer selected, you may change the grid configuration, and the script will duplicate it as much times as you need. So here I have it, and now I can work with the shapes I have duplicated with this mode. So moving on to the 3D grid mode. Unfortunately, these expressions will not work in 3D mode, so I will use this composition. Here I have a lot of icons that are put into 2D grid mode, and when you have all these selected, you may just click to 3D mode, and it will arrange all your layers into 3D grid. You may of course set the number of rows and columns, but now you set them for a plane. Here it's XY plane, so let's increase this. So we have 3 items on the x-axis, 3 on y-axis, and all the rest are put into the z-axis. So let's create the camera for better understand what's going on. Yes, here it is. And of course you can change the plane. So when you change it to xz, your grid goes to the right. You change it to yz, goes down. And everything is like in 2D mode, but duplicator and grid overlay are not available. But you can create expressions and rotate your grid with expressions with the null object, which you of course can parent to any other null or any other layer. Here you can also control the plane that you want to align to and number of rows and columns. Of course, when you don't need all this, you just hit bake button, everything is removed. And on to the next feature, which is the coolest one. It's called circular mode. So let's click this and I will show you how it works. So basically it just arranges all the layers into a circle shape. You just control the radius and the angle offset of each next layer. So if we put something like 30 degrees here, it will be just like this. Well, of course you can experiment with the angle to get different shapes, but what is really cool is the spiral mode. It offsets radius just a little bit for each next layer. So let's see what it takes. Okay, I'll make radius 0, and then I will increase spiral to 10, and I will decrease my angle offset to something like 20 degrees. And yes, here I have spiral, but if you play with this, you can get all the amount of, you can get all the variety of shapes like galaxies and stars and so on and so on. What's really cool about this is when you put keyframes for position at some time and then go to another position and you change the grid configuration, it will automatically add keyframes and interpolate between them. So you may have some nice looking animation. And of course you can switch between modes. And for example, let's start with rectangle grid. Oops. And the rectangle grid will become spiral, something like this. Well, this is the grid of 1.5. Use it, have fun.